Welcome to Business Success. I'm Chloe James from RFI Group, filling in for Heidi Armstrong. From concept to operation, building any business from the ground up is a steep challenge, none more so than in the competitive fashion industry. Finding the right business partner is imperative, but what if they live in another country? Natalie Knoll is the co-founder of luxury scarf brand Knoll and will be joining me tonight to talk about making a business partnership work across borders and how getting it right has led to having some of the world's most photographed women as their fans. We also talked to the young guns blazing Sydney's hospitality scene. Opening the door of their first venue just 5 years ago, Applejack Hospitality has set the downright terrifying goal of 5 venues in 5 years. Did they reach it? The founders let us in on their recipe for success later. But first, a quick catch up on today's business news. So what's making headline today? In economic news, the Reserve Bank says it's still too early to know if the meltdown in global financial markets in January is a precursor to slower world and domestic growth. In the minutes of its March policy meeting, the central bank says even though it kept interest rates at a record 2% low inflation would give a scope to cut interest rates if the economy slowed. The minutes predate the release of a stronger than expected December quarter GDP numbers and the recent rally in the Australian dollar. And the Bank of Japan has kept monetary policy steady at its March meeting. The central bank kept the reserve deposit rate unchanged at minus 0.1%, but says it will take additional easing measures if necessary. And today's market news. The takeover tussle for Asciano has come to an end, with consortiums led by Cube and Brookfield submitting a joint bid which values the company at over $9 billion. Cube and Brookfield will buy the Patrick Container Terminals business in a joint venture. But my first guest tonight walked away from a successful career in banking to follow her love of photography and fashion, creating luxury scarf brand Knoll. 2 years on, Natalie Knoll and her business partner Michaela have a hugely popular brand with an international audience. But with Natalie based in Sydney and Michaela in Auckland, the two have had to overcome challenges that most small businesses wouldn't even dream of. Well, I'm pleased to say that Natalie joins me now to talk about those challenges and the staggering amount of frequent flyer points that I imagine they've racked up. So, from a high-powered international banking career to fashion, apart from the obvious, Natalie, what's been the inspiration behind Knoll?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. Knoll is really a beautiful artistic blend of travel and fashion and photography, which are Michaela and my passions, and they are the drivers that really inspire us every single day. And we wanted to create a tactile touching point between us and our audience, and by using beautiful imagery of iconic and exotic destinations from around the world and then showcasing them onto our fantastic luxury cashmere blend scarves, we've created something that's quite a versatile piece. It's the final edit really for any outfit or any journey.
Absolutely. I understand that you've lived all over the world. So do you draw your inspiration from those places that you've lived, New York, London, South Africa, obviously your background?
Constantly. I think the cultural vignettes that we try to capture are the more interesting narrative of that destination. It's not always the most obvious image that you might look for, but it's definitely a more interesting interpretation of it.
Absolutely. Biggest challenges when starting out, what were they like between yourself and Michaela? I understand that the business formed on a beach in Hawaii.
I was on a sun lounger wondering if I'm going to be trekking around with my camera bag for 10 more years, and just really wanted to bring, as I said, those passions together. And Michaela was just such a fantastic partner to work with on this because she has a very strong background in fashion.
Sure. What were the big challenges for you both in the sort of starting of the business? Was obviously cash flow is often a
Cash flow is always one, Chloe. But more than that, I think it's also just starting to get more confidence in your own decision making and negotiation skills, particularly if you don't come from a very strong business background like Michaela. I certainly had more experience in that, but it's also just finding that right slack between feeling confident enough to step out of your comfort zone, but also trusting your gut instinct as well. And eventually you'll get to that right slack.
Absolutely. The teamwork and partnership piece. So Michaela's obviously, I met with Michaela and yourself the other morning for breakfast, which was lovely. I understand that she's obviously in Auckland, you're here, and you have your computers set up and Skype kind of talking to one another throughout the day and lots of phone calls to sort of keep it going.
Yes, we do. There's lots of Skype and use of Dropbox and WeTransfer and conference lines because we're dealing with our suppliers as well and stockists around the world. But sometimes there's also sometimes nothing better than actually being physically together. So every few months we will make sure that we touch base together, whether it's in New Zealand or over here as well. And also with our stockists as well, is actually putting in that face time too. So there's a lot to be said for making use of technological platforms, but also there's a lot to be said too for still having that face-to-face contact.
Having that connection. But technology has been a bit of an enabler.
Technology has been absolutely fantastic. Right. We make use of incredible programs as well, like Xero, which help us to keep on top of our performance and invoicing and, you know, making sure that we know exactly how we're tracking. And we have a wholesale marketplace platform that we use as well called Jure, which allows us to place our orders live and keep track of that too. So there's definitely use of technology.
Fantastic.
In the business.
On that technology theme, Facebook, Instagram is where I sort of found your product. Have they been the social media sort of aspects of what we see today, have they been really helpful for your business?
They've been incredible because they really help to build the brand too. But Michaela and I, right from the very beginning, decided that we wanted that to be a very organic process. So all of our followers, we wanted them to be real. We wanted them to be very engaged with the content that we were putting across. And that content we draw from our inspiration drivers every single day, the fashion, the travel, the photography. So we make sure that that content is, you know, all part of our brand integrity and a very strong part of the message. And we get a lot of feedback from people saying how much they enjoy the feed.
Absolutely. On that brand integrity theme, that was another thing that we spoke about. Sort of how do you keep the brand integrity sort of your business in such a customer-centric business? You've got, as I mentioned when we were opening, some great international women, sort of public figures as fans of yours. What do you sort of stay true to? And I know that you've been given some great advice and sort of you spoke to me about the language of your brand.
Yes, well, we look, our brand is about luxury, but it's also about versatility, and it's about experience too. It's about your travel experience and your passions and making that connection. But more than that, it's making sure that when we first started out, we actually identified a couple of brands where we really enjoyed their language. We felt that they spoke to their audience in the way that we would like to, and they've been a really good benchmark for us. So we'll often look to their language and we'll say, would they say this or would they do that? And that's kind of been a way for us to keep ourselves quite aligned and on track with the message that we want to put across.
Okay.
But, you know, identifying also people that we have wanted to connect with, like Emily Blunt, who wore our scarf to the pre-Oscars rehearsal, and
get much better than that.
And Kat Deely and Elizabeth Banks Instagramming us as well. So we've had some fantastic endorsements, and then working with other incredible Australian brands like Qantas. Yes. Just, you know, you actually see then, you know, how it is that we, you know, really integrate ourselves into our customers' lives in the right way, through the right message.
Absolutely. Partnerships was actually another point that I wanted to talk to you about. So Qantas is a partner of yours, I understand. The Feels Like Home advertisement with
yes.
Qantas. You have a collaboration with them?
We did a fantastic collaboration with them last year. Their trend consultant Jess Hart identified her Feels Like Home destination, which was Melbourne, and we then produced the most fantastic scarf, which is currently sold on board with Qantas, and we sell it online too through our stockists as well. And we're very excited to be rolling out a new project with them next month. So
wow, exciting times.
They've been an amazing partner. They've really, you know, to sound very corny, they've really taken us under their wing.
Yeah.
And we're also talking with other small boutique hotel groups, as well as even a jewellery brand. So I think because we're quite a lifestyle brand, there's an opportunity to have those conversations and then just see where those opportunities take us.
And I think, partnerships with someone like Qantas, as far as Australian iconic brands, doesn't get much bigger than that. Is that something, do you like to sort of partner your brand with Australian brands being
Look, we definitely do seek out Australian brands, but having said that, you know, our focus is on showcasing the world.
Yeah.
And you know, and I think that if there's a way to bring in other partners that, you know, obviously showcase us as an Australian brand as well, but also just allow us to you know, introduce us to new audiences, then, you know, we definitely would seek that out.
Wonderful. And business mentors, you've spoken about sort of people that you've learnt the language of the brand from. You've had some great business mentors along the way. As a mentor yourself, perhaps to the audience who will be watching the show tonight, what's some great advice that you'd give to sort of young entrepreneurs starting out in fashion, a tough industry? Fashion
is a tough industry, and I think, you know, there is no doubt that it's a roller coaster ride, and good things will happen and bad things will happen too. But what a mentor allows you to do is actually step out of the trenches sometimes and just regain focus, actually allow you to also just pat yourself on the back too and just recognise your successes and, you know, how far you've come to. But more importantly than that, it's not just the mentors, Chloe, it's actually also talking to your contemporaries who are going through the same journey with you as well, and sharing that experience. So there's a certain generosity of spirit. You know, paying it forward, you know, that information, those experiences that we all have and we share amongst it allows you to create a very strong community that you're a part of and you can constantly draw from as well.
That's great. So peers, you know, peers helping each other out.
Yeah, peers helping each other out. And, you know, we've certainly felt that from such relationships as Desley and Bridget from State of Escape, for example. You know, we've had great advice from the MD of Camilla. So there's just, there's a real generosity there that I think, you know, allows you to just share that knowledge.
Absolutely. And finally, just about to wrap up, but next steps for Bird and Knoll.
Next steps are very exciting. So this year sees the introduction of our first resort collection, which is our first foray into apparel, and it just allows us to really build on the brand as just a great brand of versatile travel pieces. So we're very much looking forward to that. Collaborations once again with Qantas, hotels, and wait and see what's next.
Fantastic. Look, thank you so much for the time coming on Business Success. Really great to hear from fashion, a bit of a different industry, but obviously doing some great things there. So look forward to seeing what you're doing next, especially with Qantas. That's exciting.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So coming up after the break, we've got two of the best bar and restaurant creators in Sydney, and they're going to talk us through how they've grown that business faster than the industry even said they could.
Not being able to sleep, I think, is the worst thing. That's why I take Nature's Own Complete Sleep Advanced. Its natural sedative action helps me fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake refreshed.
Be a force of nature with Nature's Own.
A rental property can be a rewarding investment, but even with great tenants, there'll always be life's unavoidable accidents and uncertainties. Standard building insurance may not cover damage caused by tenants or loss of rent, leaving you out of pocket. Terry Shear is Australia's leading landlord insurance specialist, with award-winning landlord insurance from $1 a day to protect your property and rental income. Call Terry Shear today or go online.
Discovering your new NAB low-rate card gives you 0% for 24 months on balance transfers feels like discovering your own hidden ability. Enjoy 0% for 24 months on balance transfers with a new NAB low-rate card. Apply today.
Some insurers use one-off customers to promote how much they'll save you, but what does that really tell you?
Fluky.
At Budget Direct, our customers said they saved an average of $245 on their car insurance.
Hi, I'm Michael Kodari from COSEC. I've spent my entire life creating wealth for my clients and family. And right now, interest rates are at a historic low, so it's a challenge to have your money working harder for you. That's where COSEC can help. In 2012, I tipped TPG Telecom. In 2013, I recommended Domino's Pizza. And in 2014, I picked Ramsay Healthcare. All of these greatly outperformed the stock market. That's why COSEC clients are some of the wealthiest and most successful investors. At COSEC, we have a unique stock market filtering system. And now I can share this knowledge with you, because wealth begins with better knowledge. Just go to cosec.com.au and apply to get your free report. Act now and get cutting-edge research covering some of the best opportunities.
Michael, so what stock should I buy?
When Michael Kodari talks,
Well,
everyone listens.
The Paul Murray Live election tour rolls on. We move from the sand to the soil, from the beach to the bush. We say goodbye to Coolum and g'day to New England. Right in the heart of New South Wales, it is the battle for the bush. It is Barnaby Joyce, the reigning champion, Deputy Prime Minister, and Tony Windsor, the independent who propped up Julia Gillard, made millions selling his farm to miners, and now he wants revenge.
Full-scale grassroots campaign.
Join us live in Tamworth, Thursday, only on Sky News Live.
Welcome back to Business Success. I'm Chloe James. The ruthless nature of Sydney's hospitality and entertainment scene means that businesses can fail fast and pretty spectacularly. It was on a business trip to the Central Coast that my next guests, colleagues Ben Carroll and Hamish Watts, admitted that they egged each other on to create Applejack Hospitality. Having opened 5 venues in just 5 years, you might call them trailblazers, but has the blood, sweat and tears paid off? Well, Hamish, Ben, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chloe. Thanks for having us.
Has the blood, sweat and tears paid off? Ben, I'm gonna kick over to you. Hospitality and entertainment, a highly competitive industry, particularly in Sydney, where many don't make it past the first 12 months. What would you say is the key point of difference of Applejack Hospitality and what you've created?
Well, I guess going into it, we didn't know that many hospitality businesses actually failed to begin with, so it would have been handy information to know to begin with. Look, I guess the key point of difference to us is making sure that we've got a fantastic product, and then obviously nurturing our staff and having an amazing staff culture and staff team, because you're only good as the staff you have working for you. So making sure that we're really nurturing that and developing our culture. So just yesterday we had a in-house cocktail competition. Cool. We've always got different activities on at different venues and different development needs for our staff moving forward. So for us that's key, because if you're transparent with your staff and they know what your business goals are and they know what you're trying to achieve, then that can ultimately flow down the line as well, and hopefully the customers feel that as well.
That's a really good piece of advice. Hamish, I'll come over to you. I'm sort of in a tennis match here. 5 venues in 5 years. You told me when I came to visit you guys yesterday that was sort of the goal. Pretty ambitious. So how has that been, and what have been the big challenges when you've sort of been starting out? Did you start out going, right, 5 venues in 5 years? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and opened every sort of certain month?
Yeah, look, we pretty much did. We knew from like day one that we had 2 guys with 2 big egos, and one venue was not going to cut it for us. So we also came from a background of working for a large group, and we could sort of see how that would structure it and how you'd sort of like move from just having 1 to multiple venues and how you'd manage multiple sites. So we always had a vision, and we thought it was important from day one to set ourselves up with a goal, so we had something that we could work towards and achieve. Look, it's pretty hard to start with. Getting 1 venue off the ground is probably harder than getting 5 venues off the ground in many respects. You do all the hard work in your first one. Number 2 is a little bit easier, and then sort of number 3 you're sort of getting a little bit more practiced at it again, and then number 4 and number 5. So it was initially it was very, very difficult. You hit a lot of roadblocks. Probably the biggest roadblock is just having the guts to just jump in and actually give it a go. But you know, once you get through those roadblocks and you deal with council and you get your liquor licence in order and you just sort of start structuring it in the way that you need to start expanding it, it all sort of started to fall in place from there. And look, it was just by chance. We opened a venue every November for the last 5 years, and that's been a really big achievement of ours.
Absolutely. We should probably list them. Bondi Hardware, The Botanist, SoCal.
Then the Butler down in Potts Point, and our new baby Delahide down in Darlinghurst.
Great, so far. I mean, it's really impressive stuff. Talking about the partnership between the two of you, business partnerships. So I imagine that you have strengths and weaknesses, sort of different ones. Do you want to talk about that, Ben, and how that's played out?
Yeah, as Hamish said prior, when we first opened Bondi Hardware, there was 2 very passionate and emotionally involved guys that were trapped in this one venue and sort of on top of each other the whole time. So as we grew, it meant we could grow the structure of the company as well, and growing that structure of the company meant that we could actually divide our responsibilities and our roles. So we could split our KPIs, and what we call is channel management. So it means that Hamish will look after the executive chef and the cocktails and all the bar side of things, and whilst I'll be looking after, say, marketing and the financial side of things. So really split it up, making sure that, one, there's a clear definition for the 2 of us, and we report back to each other weekly on how we're both going in those KPI departments. And then also it's very easy then to be fluid with the staff and the management team. So if they've got repair and maintenance issues within the venues, they know they just need to ring up Hamish to get approval for something. Whereas if it's something to do with the marketing plans or something like that, then they'll be calling me directly. So it's very easy that way, and means that Hamish doesn't have to always come to me to ask for approval and vice versa as well.
Do you ask him for approval a lot?
All the time. Just his approval.
So that's how you work together. What about mentors and advisors? I know that, again, we were speaking about your sort of accountant and lawyers and people like that sort of help you with things that perhaps aren't your sort of area of expertise.
Yeah, look, we've found over the years that we've found some really good mentors in sort of areas that have assisted us. So, like, obviously something that we've had to get a lot better with over time is accounting, but finding ourselves a good accountant who could advise us, and not just in a not just from a financial perspective or a business perspective, but also like give you gut feel and advice on how they think, what they think of the project that's coming up. And we've got a great bookkeeper, David Greig at Zorba, and he's been a really good advisor for us. And over the years, we always sit down and talk with any projects we've got coming up, and he'll always give us his feedback on what we think, what he thinks, and we take his advice very seriously. So finding guys that are sort of a nurturing relationship for you has been very important. We also find mentors in like from suppliers and whether they're staff. We've got a lot of staff that work for us now that we seek advice from and are really part of the key decision making that we do nowadays. So yeah, there's a lot of them. It's been very important.
In saying that, so we do have these great people we can call upon, from David at Zorba there to John Miller, who's our solicitor, but we are also looking towards business coaches and things like that as well, because we actually don't know enough about them to really decide which way to go, but we have heard that it adds a lot of value to the business, so we're exploring those avenues as well.
Fantastic. You were just talking then about staff, so now I think you're up to 150 people, and I'm guessing there's
flows a bit.
Yeah, I'm sure it does in that industry. I imagine that's sort of going to be growing. What does your growth business strategy look like, Ben?
So Hamish and I, we both sit down. Oh, we sit down obviously regularly and see each other regularly. But in terms of our strategy and our planning towards that, we'll sit down and do our 6-month goals for the company. We'll do our personal 6 months goals as well, and then we'll do 12 months. Then break it out to where we actually want to take Applejack over the next 3 to 5 years, and that could talk about structure within the company and how we want to build the company and new roles we may want to get in or specialise in, and we're branching out and doing a little bit of consultancy at the moment as well. But it also then talks about what sort of business ventures we'd want to do down the track as well. So we've got a few things in the pipeline for this year, and also we all know what we want to do in a couple of years' time. We've already got sort of sites that we've found, or areas that we want to go into, particularly Byron Bay, so we could go surfing a bit up there. But
very nice. It started surfing. It's probably going to continue on
exactly.
that.
I think how it did come about was probably out on the surf there one day when we were just throwing around ideas, and that's it.
That's probably where some of the greatest business ideas have ever come from.
That or over a couple of schooners, that also works as well.
Beers or surfing, one of the two. Okay, so barriers for entrepreneurs. So for the audience, what are the sort of biggest barriers to entry that you feel, and perhaps some advice that you'd give to yourself if you were talking to yourself 5 years ago?
Look, I think something that we delayed a little bit on the offset was potentially like the setting up of the back end. Like we didn't initially get the bookkeepers that we should have got early on. And so setting yourselves up in that respect is very important from the get-go. But I think just probably the biggest barrier, which I mentioned before, is just having the guts and the tenacity to actually to do it. Setting yourselves up and having some clear vision really helps. But just sort of making the decision to do it and just actually getting stuck in is really important.
So gut instincts. Would you add anything to that, Ben?
Making sure you've got a good understanding on your back of house procedures and your financials, and know exactly where your cash flow is and where every dollar is going as well. And when you're working for somebody else, you probably don't look at the bottom line as much as you do when it's your own money. So making sure you...
When you have to pay your mortgage and...
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. What are you most proud of Applejack? What's the sort of the big key thing that you say, that's what I've created?
For me, I think it's... I've been asked this question before, and for me, I think it's probably the amount of staff that we employ nowadays. Whether they're working for us casually, doing a couple of shifts a week while they're studying at university, or it's their full-time job and career. I think that's a real... really proud of the fact that we've got so many amazing people working for our company nowadays, and we're a support line and a support team for them, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really good point you make, because I know you told me that your career, you didn't know whether you were going to sort of go into this industry full-time, and that sort sort of created over time. So it's nice that you're creating that for other people. That is an opportunity as a career.
Yeah, and seeing them thrive, and I guess starting with you. And we've had a lot of people that started with us who are in exactly the same position. They didn't necessarily see hospitality as a full-time career for them, but they get involved, and then with some mentorship and sort of some training and development, you see them sort of thrive and see it as a real career opportunity.
Well,
which
there's
is
some
great.
amazing places out there now. So it's just, I mean, that part of sort of the industry is just growing sort of exponentially.
Yeah, it's changed a lot.
Yeah. Ben, what are you most proud of in Applejack?
That we're actually still here 5 years later.
Good point.
It's something to be pretty proud of. So when we came about, Applejack or Bondi Hardware, which was the first venue we had, you know, we'd beg, borrow, steal to get the money together to actually create the venue, and then 5 years later to see that come to fruition and get the 5 venues. I think it's a pretty good moment.
Well, I live down the road from Bondi Hardware, and every time I go there, it's packed. Still to this day, and I still struggle to get a table. And
that's good.
Yeah, sometimes have to put in a sort of a special word.
Text Ben,
to get in there. Finally, we're about to wrap up, but next steps. So 6 venues in 6 years.
Look, we've got a small project. Well, we've got a project in the pipelines at the moment that we're working at. It's early days, so we won't talk about that too much. But as Ben said, you know, we've got ambitions for sort of something down the track, and we're looking at something in a couple of years. But yeah, no signs of slowing up anytime soon.
Yeah, wouldn't have thought so.
Keep loving what we're doing.
Great. Yeah, you must enjoy it, and you get to sort of have that beer and that surf.
That's true.
Sort of, as a part of your business.
Not too many beers, though.
Yeah, not too many, of course not. Okay, well, look, thanks, guys, so much for coming in to Business Success. It's been great to see you. Look forward to seeing what happens next. That's all from me tonight. I hope that you've enjoyed the show. We've heard from some great people, fashion, hospitality, some exciting industries. Hopefully you've gained some really good insight as to how you can build that business and build that success and have the longevity that some of my guests tonight are enjoying. So looking forward to seeing you next week. Thank you. Good night.